belonging to this share or
Professor
always to my
Farid
share.
Esack.
And the smaller and smaller this box become, the smaller and smaller we become, the more and more embittered we become. And our societies become more and more estranged from each other. Bitterness replaces mawadda and mahabba. Diversity is replaced by a narrow, arrogant chauvinism. And the tragedy is that the whole body is still saliman. The whole body is still at peace. But these pebbles, if not taken care of, impacts entirely on the performance of the body. And this body, brothers and sisters, colleagues, functions in context. So we need to understand that this context, but there are also multiple contexts. There isn't only an Indonesian context. Indonesia, there are many, many Indonesias. There are many, many different forms of expressions of our faith. But we also need to ask whose past, whose present, and whose futures are we talking about? So this on the one hand. And on the other hand, we have our texts. That these, the past, the present, and the future, as Muslims we believe, our texts have something to say to them. Our texts are ultimately the place wherein we find inspiration and guidance. And these texts, they are both revealed and they're also unrevealed texts. And the unrevealed text is in our societies, the collective wisdom of our people. Texts aren't only a sacred religious texts that are there. The history of our people, the adab, the culture of our people. And so when we approach our text, we approach both our text like you take wudu and you read it respectfully, and you look at the legacy of your cultures and so on. And how do we find a synthesis between the two? Sticking to the text now for the next 10-12 minutes before I finish.
Banyak ngebimbing pelajar.
And then there are tensions in the text. Because the text of the Quran also has its own context. It's a text that did not fall from the sky, bang, once, and there it was. It was unfolded over a period of at least 23 years. And it spoke at different times to different parts of the Prophet's mission. And this is why we talk about what is common to many of you, Asbab al-Nuzul, the ilm of Nasikh and Mansukh. And scholars have said, you should not speak about the Quran until you don't know whether a verse was revealed during the day or in the night in Mecca or Medina, before Hijrah or after Hijrah, during the conditions of rain or during the conditions of no rain in winter or in summer, fil hadar or fil safar, while you were in Medina or while you were traveling. You need to understand the context of revelation before you speak about it. So, this text defines this community as an ummata wasatan, as a balanced community. So the search to restore the balance, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا. So we have to be witness bearers unto humankind, but not because of the good fortune of being biologically born, the biological accident of finding yourself in this community. No. You know, when Nabi Ibrahim entered into this ahad, into this covenant with God, and God tells him in the Quran, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ قَالَ إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا قَالَ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي. Then God told when God tested Abraham, and Abraham completed the test, God said unto him, إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا, that I will make you a leader over people. And then Abraham said, وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي, and what about my offspring? And then God said, لَا يَنَالُ عَهْدِ الظَّالِمِينَ, that my covenant does not embrace the wrongdoers, the oppressors. And so this connection that we have, it's not a biological connection that just because you were born into a Muslim. It comes along with responsibilities. And there are two primary responsibilities in the context of our discussion on violence and extremism that I want to speak about. The one is this responsibility to create an ummata wasatan, to create a median ummah, a justly balanced ummah. Now, theologically, in the past, many of our mufassirun, and thanks Mas Nina for pointing this out, many of our mufassirun, I mean, look people, you know, Allahu yarhamhum wa jazahum khairul jaza bima sabaru wa bima fa'alu wa bima jahadu fi tariqat al-ilm. May God reward them handsomely for all that they did and all their efforts that they created in the paths of knowledge. But the truth is that our worlds are expanding all the time. And it was impossible for them to take cognizance of all of the stuff that they were limited by their social horizons. A very quick one. You know, many people throughout the ages had pets as animals. And you always thought that your little cat or your little budgie or your hamster, or if you had fish in a tank, you know, I had a fish tank. And I was amazed by how my fish would behave towards each other. And sometimes they were very aggressive, and they were terrified when a new fish came in, and they were territorial, and I was fascinated by how my fish behaved. And now with social media, in the beginning you thought only your cat was a funny cat. You thought only your dog was an intelligent dog. And now we are astounded by the generalization of knowledge about how animals hurt and suffer and feel and are happy. And when one elephant dies, how the other elephants come and cry and mourn. You see an image of a bird on the street, flapping her wings, standing like this with all her wings, holding the traffic. The traffic stops when all the other birds walk past, and only when the last bird has come home does the mother bird put her wings down and flaps. What are we learning? We are learning something about the wealth of another world. We didn't know about it before. And so our knowledge is vastly increasing. So our awareness of things around us, our awareness of sex and sexuality, our awareness of gender, our awareness of left-handedness, and how left-handedness is, it's not a learned behavior, but it is inherent to the human body. How do we deal with this new knowledge? So earlier on the Mufassirun, they looked at this ummata wasatan as, you know, the Jews had engaged in excesses, ghulu. And they became extremists in their law. And the Christians, on the other hand, became very relaxed in their laws. It was all about the new agey, Christ is love, let's hug each other, there is no law, and just be happy in Christ and give praise to the Lord, and everything will be fine. And then Islam came as a median between the two. This is our tafsir tradition, that this is all that we have to offer on this Islam as the middle way. this ifrat and tafriq. So it wanted to reverse the excesses, on the one hand, of pre-Islamic Jahiliyyah, and on the other hand, the socio-economic excesses of Jahiliyyah on the one hand, and on the other hand, the distortions in what the Quran later speaks, Allah tatahu fil mizan, don't exceed the balance. So restore a balance in the theological and the dogmatic excesses of the then Jewish communities and Christian communities, which the earliest Muslims encountered. Now, the struggle to live out, now we have to deepen the meaning of what does it mean to be an ummah wasatan. But this ummah wasatan is the competing tensions inside the ummah between the firaq and the madhahib, between the tensions inside the community, but also between the demands being placed upon us by the outside world on the one hand, and what does our faith require from us on the other hand. And it's a balance between the two. It's not simply a question of, if you just lay there and you say, oh, the loud voices in the world are demanding that Muslims become like this. The loud voices in the world, yesterday they came to us and they demanded that we must put jihad on our menu for them to consume. You remember when the Taliban, when the Mujahideen when the Soviets invaded Afghanistan, and how the emergence of the Mujahideen, and the Mujahideen were praised throughout the Western world as the saviors of the world and the saviors of Afghanistan. In fact, in the White House, Ronald Reagan welcomed them as the Thomas Jeffersons, the founding fathers and the new heroes of a liberated Afghanistan. And so the Taliban, the Mujahideen later, and the Taliban, for a long time, they were, how do we jihad-defy Islam? This was the question that the West asked. Jihad, as many of you who may come from Pascasarjana and religious traditions, you will know that jihad had always existed in our Kutubul Fiqhiyah or this Kitab Kuning, our yellow books. It has always been Kitabul Jihad or Babul Jihad. But they were never energized, they were never animated, they were never made alive in our Pascasarjanas and in our Darul Ulooms and in our Makatib. When you read about Kitabul Jihad and so on, you never left your class thinking, oh, who am I going to kill now? But there was a political movement to make sure that those stuff in your Kitab Kuning, that it becomes alive in the service of fighting Soviet occupation of Afghanistan. And now there is a new demand, given all the headaches that the jihadists and the Taliban, well, we're not so sure about the Taliban anymore because they're sitting down in Qatar at the moment. Former Guantanamo Bay prisoners are now sitting down in Qatar face to face with American leaders negotiating the freedom of Afghanistan. And God alone knows what will happen to the women of Afghanistan afterwards, but better that they get out of there and that the Afghans be allowed to sort out their own problems. So this ummah wasatan, do we just respond to the demands from the outside? Or do we also ask, what do we as Muslims, based on our Turath, كشعوب الإندونيسيين أو المصريين أو الفلسطينيين كشعوب والمسلمين كأمة الدينية, both as people? That's also a part of our identity. So this ummah wasatan has to be between all of us. And this is an urgency that is now being contested. So on the one hand, there is the divine instruction, Wallahu yad'u ila daris salam. God invites us to an abode of peace. And this abode of peace is both in preparation for a life of ultimate peace to come, al-akhirah, but in addition to this being a divine instruction, it is also a socio-theological urgency for Muslims to preserve an ethic of tolerance, of pluralism and diversity inside Muslim society. Simply put, with the absence of pluralism, tolerance and diversity will destroy all of us. You know, many of us, I hope I don't sound too controversial, that the same religion that draws its inspiration from the same sources, and I'm talking about now the Jamaat-e-Islami in Pakistan, in India and in Bangladesh. In India, the Jamaat-e-Islami demands a purely secular state. They all read the books of Sayyidina Maulana Maududi Marhum, whom I have a lot of love and respect for. They all read and draw inspiration from the books of Maulana Maududi, who argues for an Islamic state, both in Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. But in India, where they are a minority, they're demanding a secular state where the Sharia, where religious law is not imposed by the state. In Pakistan and in Bangladesh, where they are in a majority, they are demanding an Islamic state. So wait, is the ethics of the Muslim entirely situational? That when you are in a majority, you demand an Islamic state. When you are in a minority, you demand a state of pluralism and equality. They just need to have power, and when they see you alone, they have a problem with the the real problem is not with the ability and power and the controlling of other societies and dominating other societies. The real problem is that they are not the ones in control and in domination of those societies. So when we talk, we need to find an ethic that is really in our texts. And sometimes you'll find things that what we can't do with this notion, for example, of al-Islam ya'la wa la yu'la alayhi, that Islam must be dominant and can never be dominant. Do we have to live in a relationship of dominance? When a person is in a marriage, does it have to be in a relationship where the one is in control of another one? When I am in a relationship of friendness, of ukhuwa, does it have to be a relationship of hegemony and control and power and abuse? Isn't there such a thing such as coexistence, ta'awun, ta'aruf, tasamuh, the reciprocity that is basic to all of this? So, in this madness to claim an understanding of Islam that is only yours, and this is a kind of shirk. Because when you say my understanding of Islam is the only Islam, you are appropriating the text of God for yourself and only for yourself and of your little group. And there is, we often say, Allahu Akbar. It doesn't mean that God is the greatest. It only means that God is greater than. So you want to put God into a small box, Allahu Akbar. You want to reduce God to an Indonesian, Allahu Akbar. You want to reduce God to a Japanese or to the Amir of Hizb al-Tahrir, Allahu Akbar. God is greater than. Our Lord, Subhanallah, amma yasifun. God is freed from what they ascribe to him. So this intolerance, people, and this is why you see many of these groups, they continue breaking up in smaller and smaller groups all the time. Because it's like Fir'aun, ana rabbukum al-a'la. So every one of them are their own, romps. And so, friends, this is the one urgency. But the other urgency in which that forms the context to establish this wasatan, this ummata wasatan. And this is a problem, and that is the idea that many people from the outside, the other enemy of the idea of this ummata wasatan is the idea that Muslims have no value of their own. Islam has no message to the world. I'm over time, just 2-3 minutes more. No, I'm speaking to my colleague because it's not the chairperson that has warned me, but my colleague did warn me from Singapore. Please don't speak for too long. I'm embarrassing you. You're not supposed to embarrass people, especially in the Javanese context. So I'm sorry, I didn't say that. I apologize. In Java, amongst the Javanese, it's fascinating that in the beginning they always apologize for something that they may be doing in the end. So I should have apologized to you in the beginning for anything that I may say, that's wrong, but I'll apologize again at the end. But I'm not really serious. I'm only playing to the Javanese audience. So people, this is the idea that Muslims are simply expedient instruments to be harnessed for political agendas, and that peaceful Islam should be a dead faith that does not offer any kind of challenges to the contemporary socio-economic and political challenges in the day. This is an ummah that is an ummata wasatan. This is an ummah that is an ummata muqtasida. But this is also an ummah that has been called upon by God. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu qawwamina bil qist shuhada'a lillah. شهداء لله بالقسط ولو على أنفسكم إن يكن غنيا أو فقيرا والله أولى بهما. So اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى. To be just, we called upon to be a community to rise as witness bearers for justice, and this is very important. ولو على أنفسكم, though it may be against ourselves. So when people speak the truth to our societies, we must listen. When people address questions of injustices, we must listen, even if it is our own injustices. And Islam, in a larger world, wherein it's not just the pebbles in your shoes that are troubling us, but in a larger world of climate change, of the destruction of our environment, of the terrible violence of poverty, of slavery in our factories, in our backyards, in our prisons, in that larger world, our home is being threatened. Many people are arguing that there will just be one more generation after us. Now I know that in Muslim tradition, every generation throughout the ages, they kept on thinking that they were living in Akhir Zaman. So every time something new comes out, then they would say, oh, this is a sign of Akhir Zaman. When I was a child and the miniskirts just came out, everybody spoke about it being a sign of Akhir Zaman. And then the hot pants came out and this came out. So every Muslim generation, by the way, from the time of the Prophet, believed that they lived in Akhir Zaman. But the scientists are saying we are really living in Akhir Zaman. And the signs are all pointing to it. Whales are washing up on our beaches with tons of plastics in their stomach. People are trying to see in Indonesia how much plastic is being wasted, but that's an aside. So we have to find a prophetic response to the Quranic call to create a peaceful society on the one hand, and the equally Quranic imperative to rise as God's witness bearers for justice on the other. So this ummata wasatan, how do we create a balanced society and fight? And this is one of the problems with moderate Islam. Moderate Islam doesn't fight people. Our whole Islam is being destroyed. We have to fight. We have to have the emotional energy to oppose these mad and embittered